I have one more question for you, and then we'll open up to a live Q&A. So we'll get through as many questions as we can in a little bit of time. But the last question I have for you is kind of like one of the more common objections to dualism is the idea of the mind being dependent on the brain. We could argue that like if there's a change in the physical states, whether it's brain damage or something else along those lines, there's also a change in the mental state. So the mind would be dependent on the brain.
Yeah,
And I think you could use it to argue for some sort of like eliminatism or something along
yeah,
those lines. So how would you
sure.
respond to that kind of objection?
Right. Well, some people say, well, mental states depend on brain states, and so, therefore they are the same. Well, it
Mm-hmm.
doesn't follow if A depends on B that A is the same thing as B, number one. That requires further argumentation. So, dependency is not identity. Dependency doesn't mean sameness. Number two, we know as a fact that not only is our mental states dependent on brain states, but it's the other way around. They have demonstrated that if you take a brain scan of somebody with an obsessive compulsive disorder, and they have a lot of anxiety, and you look at the brain scan and you can see regions where the neurons are wired in a certain way, and you tell the person to change the content of their thoughts for 2 to 3 weeks. So they start pondering semantic meanings like I'm not going to die if I don't wash my hands 100 times a day. Hey, look, my hands aren't that dirty. It's no big deal. After 3 weeks, their mental contents of their thoughts has rewired their brains.
Mm.
And so there's also mental to brain dependency. And by the way, if there weren't, again, there would be absolutely no free agency. There would be no basis of blaming or praising anyone, because if all the actions or mental thoughts I had were completely dependent on and determined by my brain states, then they're not up to me. I'm a passive bystander in these things. So the dependency goes both ways. It is not just one way.